clean water. You gotta remember that this is a little bit thin. And this smells bad, you guys. What the thing about all these materials is that they all start out as being something from the earth. And so if they're around here long enough, they're gonna start molding, but we have to put up with the smell. Let's see, I thought I had a sponge. The commercial stuff, it's always going to be easier to apply, but it's also harder. It also makes it harder to get rid of it. You know, because it's the commercial glazes, underglazes, are made up for people that aren't going to school, you know, so it's as tried and true as possible. You know, very little variation, if any. And you can use all these things in combination. You can use some slip. I mean, the thing is, we can't make a red slip. We can't make a really, well, no, we can make a bright orange slip. But, so these should be used in conjunction with the slips. Now, the bisque slip. Oh, let me just skip past something. Are you guys with me so far? Okay. If you've used OnGo, you don't even have to pay attention to it being there if you don't want to. If you just think, well, I did it, but who cares? It's not going to mess up anything, providing that you put something opaque over it. You know, I think the thing that's nice about using the OnGos is that you could go back in with the bisque slip and leave some areas where maybe you are taking advantage of the OnGo being there, or at least you know that the OnGo is there. You know what I mean? Like, well, I'm saying this way too late, but with your coil pieces, as you were building, it might have made sense to paint OnGo on the inside, because then you would at least know that it was covered with something, because you're going to have those cavities. But anyway, so with the slip, you guys, now the stuff that you just mixed,
It's an older one.
this is an older one. Okay.
Here's over here, I've got a bunch of them.
Of the newer ones?
Yeah, I have some in a bowl if you need.
So, if you want to make, obviously we don't expect you to always be applying something like this. Those of you at home. Can I do this? I'm afraid to do this and have it fall out. But, you know, it's water-based. It can be used thick. If you have holes that you've got a spackle, you want to use the slip, and it's easier to use thick slip than thin slip. Well, you guys don't have holes that are this big. But when you're spackling your holes, you just want to take a little bit, fill that little hole. You don't want to make a big splot. Yeah, because it will remain a splot. You know, hence that you can make texture with it. So, let's see, what am I going to show you? I have a feeling I left my teeny weeny brush in my car. At the bookstore, they have some little brushes, little tiny brushes. Well, what's different about the ones at the bookstore is that they're about this thickness, but they're about this long.
Oh, okay.
So it's this long, thin, reminds me of like a horse's tail or something. If you want to build up, say you're trying to make fur, and this is where the TV comes in handy, or good conversation. But it takes a little concentration too. You want to repeat something. You know, it could be a dot, it could be a line, it could be kind of blotting the surface with the head of the brush with that box, I think I was using one of those really thin brushes, and I was just going back and forth and back and forth. Yeah, you can cross-hatch. Depends. So basically, the whole idea behind it is each time you put down a brush stroke or a dot, you're putting it down in an area that is porous again, so that they don't mesh together. They maintain their identity, and in that way it builds up texture, it builds up thickness, but thickness with a texture, and each brush stroke sort of maintains its identity. And in some ways, it's nice to have some slip that's this thick, but I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling like it's nice to have it this thick because you build up thickness right away. The problem is that I'm finding the minute that my brush hits the surface, it's dry, and I'm not able to pull it out. So I'm gonna, but then, you can add a little bit of water. You're going to feel much more like a painter than like you're a person glazing ceramics. For those of you who have, glazed high-fire ceramic pieces, where maybe you've dipped and poured, this is really a very different process. And, part of it is you're making sculptural objects, and the color, the pattern, the quality of the surface, the type of surface, it all adds something to your sculpture. And so it requires your decision making where you're putting what and how you want that to look, and then in contrast with other things. So this is why I like to have the TV on, because at this point it would be very easy for me to say, just hurry and get finished. They're watching you, and it doesn't. I should always bring in things that are partially done, because it takes patience, and there's definitely a difference between how you do something when you're feeling sort of okay about the time that you're spending versus when you don't feel okay about it and you start rushing. So I've barely scratched the surface. I know that I did that in front of the TV in my living room at my coffee table, because it was the only way I could do it. I couldn't be out on my front porch worried about geezer cars pulling up and coming to see the little woman making art on her front porch. So there's some surfaces that if it's labor intensive, it's going to pay off. I think that's the thing to always keep in mind, is that if it takes you 3 hours to do a 4x4 area on a piece, it's probably going to be well worth it, because it's going to be a rich surface that is going to stand out from anything else. I think your surfaces are just as important as your forms. So I'll get back to this. What I found when I was in graduate school,
They want to see it.
as my compressor was dying, I was trying to spray underglazes, and if you've ever worked with an airbrush, you probably know that practically everything will clog an airbrush. And so my compressor was dying. Most of what I was spraying was ending up on the floor. And so but you see, I was letting the airbrush say, I'll just spray up over the mountain, down the mountain, look at where it goes. So I wasn't really taking a lot of control over where things were where I was putting color. Let's see. I want to show you how to blend. So a friend of mine in sculpture started showing me how to blend colors with lots of dots. And this technique, if you have any old like oil paint brushes that have stiff bristles, this technique works really well, even if they're down to stubs and there's practically no bristle left. So the whole idea is you're going in one direction with dots. Let's see, I've got a...
Do another color, Claire.
Well, wait, I can grab something from over here that's contrasty. Oh, you've got
I got
one?
yellow and green in here,
Okay,
and that other one's maroon or crimson.
okay. So,
You've got this little guy right here.
oh, that's good. Okay, green will really... So what you end up doing is, because each dot I'm putting down here is adding thickness, I'm creating a textured surface and a colored textured surface. In other words, the color is animated and the surface texture is animated. Do you know what I mean? Like I guess the texture of the surface goes along with what the color is doing.
Could you do a light blue and a dark blue? Yeah,
Yeah, you could. Me?
I know.
I mean, you could.
want. I know
you
you want
could-
contrasting, but
You could do. You could do sort of an ombre kind of surface. You could do a black and white. So it's sort of like these guys are invading these guys. At least, wait a minute. The pink needs to come this way more. So the whole idea, you guys, is I think you want to cover the edge of every dot with another dot of the other color. So in other words, the dots start, eventually they don't look like dots so much. So I go back in and I'm telling you, the brushes I wish I had were my old ones.
Look at.
Well, those would probably be good,
Ooh,
but
that's a good one.
you're talking about this style.
I'm talking about, yeah, stubs, where,
It's like meant for doing like little texture in the paint.
but now this is, yes, and it's partly because you can, this will sort of, well, this would come towards the end when you've gotten the color down where you can sort of, then you pretend that you're working with pastel. No, this is too stiff.
Too stiff.
Well, it's, it's if I had this, but about this long. So, where the bristles aren't so tightly packed, but they're stiff. You know, old oil
I
brushes.
do. I have a couple at home. I wish I would have got them. I use them for mixing because they're so hard.
Yeah.
And short.
But so all you're sort of doing is it's just, but they don't hang on to the slip sort of in a uniform way.
It pulls it as it comes back.
Well, they're basically stubs, so they don't hold as much. So you're not putting as much down. But you see, once I get color, first I have to get sort of a. You can do this sort of technique of blending with a slip and a glaze. Yeah, that actually would probably be good. See, because then you're sort of, yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
it's,
It hits a little bit more round and it
Yeah.
hits a little bit more deep. It looks like.
and then you can do it aggressively, which sort of ignites kind of the pastel quality of, once this is dry, if you go over it and blend it dry, it will mingle a little bit more.
I'm using that same idea with just on top of my clay to create texture for the fur,
Uh-huh.
and it seems to be working pretty good.
That's a good idea.
What
Okay,
are you
so
making? The has that?
It's a lid to a box, but it's the lid's a sugar glider.
Oh, cool. Very cool. I love sugar glider.
They're
Where,
fun.
where is yours?
I left him at home.
Oh, now he's at home,
Yeah,
catching up on his sleep.
yeah. He was awake when I left.
You have a sugar glider?
Oh, they're so sweet.
Yeah, I usually have him with me, but
My friend had one that she rescued a long time ago, and it kept coming back. It wouldn't leave. So